Hi everyone, we're going to go over drip irrigation layout, and we're going to first start out with this rectangle, and we're going to start laying out some drip line. So first off is, which way do you think we're going to start our drip? Do you think we're going to go vertical in this instance or horizontal? Now for this instance, typically more often than not, we want to run it in the longest path possible. That's the least amount of work for installation, and that leads to the least amount of fittings on your project, so you lower the cost. So in this instance, we're going to go horizontally, which is the longest length of this planter area. Typically the only time that you may go in a shorter distance is depending on your slope. You want the tubing to go across the slope so it's on the same elevation and not going up and down the slope. That way all the water doesn't drain to the low point of the tubing. But in most cases you're going to be doing drip in a flat area. So I have my first drip line on the edge, but we don't actually want the drip line on the edge of the planter. We want it about 4 to 6 inches off. So I did a 4-inch offset there. And then I am going to just offset each line 18 inches. So 18 inches. You can see it's going to be each drip line. This is a big planter that I'm showing you, but so this is, we're going to be also 4 inches off there. And then since we don't want the drip ending on the hardscape, we're also going to offset this 4 inches. I'm just going to trim up everything. I will give you a tip on this. Is standard is 4 to 6 inches if you're next to like a concrete surface. If you're doing something next to a DG path or DG landscape area, you may want to go further, because what tends to happen if you have the drip too close, since the water's moving through the soil, the water in from the drip line will actually saturate the DG, and you will see the DG get wet and undesirable. It's mushy. So here we're going to do the same thing on the other side. We're going to offset this also by 4 inches. So this offset was 18 inches. That's pretty industry standard. Now, if you had very sandy soils, you would do it at 12-inch spacing. But most of our soils here in Southern California are in a clay loam amount. So this is where we would then do the approximately 18-inch spacing. And so that is our drip design. This is just the drip tubing layout. And then from here, let's see, go to my equipment. I'm going to put my drip valve in. And then I'm going to run my PVC lateral line. And you're going to want it perpendicular to your tubing so you have nice connections. And from the lecture that you guys learned with previously, this would be a center fed design. And then we're going to move to have a flush valve. So this is the valve at the end of your system that allows any debris inside to flush out of your tubing so it doesn't clog your system. And this would be your drip zone. So now we're in a parkway situation. Let's say the homeowner wants to put shrubs in their parkway. The parkway is the landscape area between the street and then your sidewalk, and then this would be their driveway. And it's typically around 5 to 6 feet, but it can vary. So I just drew my first drip line here. I'm going to offset it 4 inches. And then I'm going to offset my 18 inches. So again, if I was in sandy soils or such, I might do a 12-inch offset instead of 18. So I can trim my lines up. And then here, everything is perpendicular. Trimmed all that. And that would be my drip tubing layout. Now, I am going to grab my valve. I'm going to switch to my PVC line here in red. So traditionally, what a contractor might do, because it saves on cost, is they might run the PVC here and then run it drip tubing. And then from the end of the drip tubing here, they'll just run PVC from this connection to here. This is not ideal, as if you get any little nick in the tubing here, then that cuts the water flow to this planter, and then this planter is going to lose the water supplying the emitters in this zone. So if you had a break here, you might lose 50% of your water and most of your pressure, and then you'll start having a decline in your plant material. So it's a little more, but it's a lot more robust, is we actually run a PVC line that distance and then come and pick up the planter separately. And so if the drip line gets nicked here, you will have a little bit of an issue, but this planter, as the water is skipping over, water will flow through the PVC and still supply this, and your plant material will stay healthy and happy. And then for each planter area, you will then need a flush valve. Because if you just had a flush valve, let's say right here in this location, any debris in here, if you had a flush valve, would flush out, but no, the water is pushing the water, it doesn't siphon back. So over here, if you did not have this flush valve, any debris wouldn't come backwards and use this flush valve. You always have to be downstream of the area. And you might ask, why am I putting it here versus on the street? In this instance, I typically, boxes get run over a lot. So, if somebody drives up on the curb or such, trying to keep irrigation equipment away from traffic would be as ideal as possible. Also, too, if people tend to drive over their driveway apron, you might want to scoot this further back, just so that the box and valve doesn't get crushed. Our next situation is pretty similar to our last. Now let's say we had another planter area. So we're going to zoom in on here, and then I'm just going to extend my drip line across. And everything, since the areas are equal, is all measured correctly with 4-inch offsets. You can see here is a little bit bigger. Again, in your design, a lot of where you cover yourself is in the details, and the design, even most professionals don't actually show the individual drip lines. They show a hatch pattern, but I want to show you guys actually how to correctly draw it. So we come over, center feed it again, put another flush valve, and you can see now the water fills this, uses the PVC, fills this planter area, continues down the PVC, and irrigates this planter area.